In this video, I'm going to show how you can send AI personalized videos in Apollo sequences 100% automated. So the idea is that in Sendspark, you create a video template leaving placeholders for your viewer's first name, company name. You can even do a dynamic background. So when you send out a video, it'll show you recording over their website. And you have this set up in Sendspark. You add this placeholder to your email. And then what's going to happen is you're going to automatically generate the videos and send your contact into the sequence. So everyone's going to get a personalized video made for them, 100% automated without you recording hundreds of videos by hand. The way this works, and I'll go through this pretty quickly, but I'm also assuming you know nothing. So, but basically what you'll do before getting started is you will create your Sendspark dynamic video. You can do this in the dynamic video section of Sendspark here. And this is where you're setting up all of your placeholders. So I'll kind of just go through this really briefly, but you basically have your video template set up where you have the variables for first names. You can choose whether or not you're going to use that dynamic background to look like you're recording over someone's website. You can set up the landing page. So this is what people actually watch the video on. And this is really simple, but you can add buttons or embed your calendar around the video. And then, so you'll set this up in Sendspark. And then the one thing you have to do before setting up your automation is click Share Campaign, grab this snippet for Apollo. This is like your video placeholder. And then go to your email in Apollo and paste this exactly where you want the video to appear. And so when you paste it, it's going to look something like this, where it's just like a generic placeholder. But when you're sending this out to the right people, then everyone's going to get that personalized video made for them that says their name. Assuming you've made them a video. And if you have made them a video, they'll get a fallback. So that could look something like this, where you just say, hey there. No one's going to get like a bad video. It'll just be either the personalized version or the fallback. And if you want to know how this matching is working, you can see, click edit link, and you can see we're basically using the email field. So what you just want to make sure as you're setting up the rest of the automation is that the email you have set up here in Sendspark, so like the people you've generated videos for, match the real email that you're using in Apollo. But no worries, I'll kind of take you through that now. So, okay, what we're assuming you have is you have your dynamic video template set up in Sendspark, you have the placeholder in the email, and now you want to set up the automation to make sure that, at the right time, we're creating the videos and then adding people into Apollo. So this is going to happen in the dynamic, or what's it called, in the agentic workflow section of Sendspark. And I'll show you, this is how it's set up, but I'll also show you how to do it from scratch. Basically, we're going to have the trigger, and this could either be like an automated trigger, like someone books a meeting with you, they visit your website, they are added to a list in Apollo, HubSpot, Salesforce, whatever. Like you can set whatever you want as the trigger. And then in this case, I'm just saying the video is generated. So this lets us test a little bit more manually, but basically you'll have your trigger, you're generating the Sendspark video, and then we're going to find the contact in Apollo. This gives us the Apollo contact ID. And then using the Apollo contact ID, then we can add them into a sequence with Apollo's API. And if you've never used an API before, don't worry. I'm going to walk you through how to do this, just literally copying and pasting. So you don't need to have any technical skills. You'll still be able to set this up. So this is the end product, but I'll go through and I will create a new automation now so you can follow along. So first, create a new automation, set your trigger. And like I said, this could be any trigger you want, whatever you can think of that should trigger you creating a video and adding them into the Apollo sequence. But for simplicity, I'm just going to say the video was generated and link to that campaign. And the reason I'm doing that is because then that way, like to test, I can just go ahead and like add a contact. I can type in a name or upload a CSV and it lets us test manually. If you are to, so we'll do this one. So it's specific campaign. I'm going to select my account, which is Bethany. And then I'll click on that dynamic video campaign ID, which is this one. If you don't see yours, by the way, just make sure to update the list and go ahead. And if you had a different trigger, then what you would do is you'd have that trigger there, and then your action would be create the dynamic video, and then you could go ahead this way. But okay, so the trigger is creating the video, and then I'm going to add the Apollo lookup field. So just do Apollo, and then find contact, and then link to your Apollo account. It'll have you log in the first time. For the keyword, just use the email. So again, it's important the emails they are using in both Sendspark and Apollo or Align, but you can look up the contact based on email, and then that's going to give us the Apollo contact ID to use. One note as well, so at the time I'm recording this video, Sendspark does not have an action to add the contact into Apollo directly using Apollo. It's not on this list, but we're going to add one shortly. So if you're watching this video in the future, just check. It might be a little bit easier to add this. But for now, what we'll say is don't use Apollo there, add a new action, and then use an HTTP request. So it's going to be this one, HTTP/outgoing webhook, send request, and then we're going to create a new one. And then again, if you've never made an API call, don't worry, just follow along with me. So I'm going to call this Apollo v3. And then URL. So I'll actually open the Sendspark help article, and I'm going to be copying and pasting from here so that you can copy and paste the exact same way. So, okay. It's going to be here. So this is the URL you're going to use. So just copy and paste that from the help article. But here where it says campaign ID, we want to replace that with a real campaign ID. So go to your sequence and you just copy this sequence ID and then paste it in there. Make sure to replace the curly brackets too, so it's just between these slashes. You can leave these fields empty right now because we're going to do that in the next step. But where it says URL encoded, just make sure to select JSON here. That's really important. And then here, I'm going to open this up just so you can see exactly what this should look like. Let me close that. So this is what this step should look like. And then go ahead and click continue. It says, okay, for this, you don't need to do anything else here, just hit continue. But then we're going to do a lot here. So URL, we can leave blank because we just added it. Request method, it's a post. You can leave these blank unless you want to do that right now, but we'll just leave them. And then for request parameters, we're going to need 3. So I'm going to add 3 fields. And then request headers, we're going to need 2. So I'm going to add 2 fields. Note, these are all going to be strings, except the first one is going to be a string array. So I'll set that up now, and then I'm going to go through and copy and paste some more. Okay, so the first thing you need is contact IDs, and this is like the contact ID that you're pushing into the sequence. So you can paste that in, and then for this, you'll actually use the contact ID that you found not in Sendspark, but in the Apollo step. And that's actually why we have that find step, just so we can get this ID. And then we can go ahead and do email. That's a string. And then this is going to be the campaign ID. That's the same thing we found before. So it's up here. So we're going to grab that and paste that back in. This one is the send from account. So you can paste that in. And then this is like your sender account. So who's going to be sending the email in Apollo. You can find this in Apollo easily by going to this page and then adding your API key here, and then it'll pull up all the sender IDs for you. And then there's a link right below here to get your API key. So if you don't have one, you can create one. I made like a fake one so I can actually go through everything with you now. So make sure to create your own. Don't use mine, but I'll use it and it'll be inactive after I'm done recording. So paste your API key here, click try it. And now you should see like your real emails, and just grab this field here for ID, paste. And then that is all we need for request parameters. Then we need our request headers. And so you're going to need the API key. So paste that in, and then go back to where you had the API key open and copy this, paste that in here. And then the last thing that we'll need is the content type. And we can just paste this. So again, I'll zoom out for a second so you can see how everything's supposed to look. So the URL is blank, so we're using it from the previous step. We're using post, and you can compare it right to this. And these two are empty, but we have this information going in. I'm just clicking to make sure there's no like spaces. We have this info. And if everything looks good, so it won't let me save. That's because you actually have to go here and click string array twice just to be super sure it's a string ID. And now you can hit save. And the last thing you want to make sure to do is go ahead and click start to turn on your automation. And then you can go ahead and test your trigger. So whatever your trigger is, let's try to activate it right now. In this case, it was adding context to that video campaign. So we're just going to go and add some people now. I'll add Helena. I'll add myself. I'll add Isaac. And then I'm going to just paste them in. And then, obviously, if you're doing this for real, you want to use, the real info that you want in the video, but I just want to trigger the automation. So I'm not going to fill the rest of this out. And then what we should expect to see is these videos are going to generate. And when those videos generate, that's going to trigger the automation. So we'll look up the contact in Apollo. And then, we're going to trigger, it'll find the contact in Apollo and it'll send the request. And we can go over to history and wait for that. This will take about a minute to generate. So while that's happening, I just want to explain one thing. So the way this is working is, we have the trigger and then we're looking up the contact in Apollo and using that contact ID to add them into the automation, right? But let's say they didn't exist. Then it wouldn't work, right? Because they don't exist. So what you might want to do when you're setting this up is actually add logic to check and be like, okay, look them up in Apollo. If they do exist, then add them to the sequence. If they don't exist, then create a contact in Apollo and then use that contact ID to add them to the sequence. So if you want to do things that way, I'm going to add just a note to the help article to a different article that goes to that. And I'd say this is totally up to you if you want to do it. When I was testing this out, pretty much everyone that we'd really be reaching out to was already in Apollo. They have a really big database. But if you're reaching out to smaller companies or less common roles or newer roles or things like that, where you're not sure they'll already exist, it might be worth adding that extra logic to your automation. Okay, cool. So I can go ahead and see, it looks like my videos were generated. So if I go to history, then boom, I can see all these successes. And if I click into each one, I can get more info. So we can see this is Selena. We found the contact ID in Apollo, great. And then we went ahead and added her to a sequence. Response code 200 means that everything worked. So that's awesome. And if you go to Apollo and actually go to the contacts tab, what we should see is that all of these people were successfully enrolled. So that is it. That is what we want to see. Thank you for watching along. Let us know if you have any questions or need any help setting this up yourself. But awesome. Happy scaling. Cheers.